I'm Ashley Emerson. I'm co-CEO at Health and Harmony, and I have the pleasure of overseeing scale and business. Worked in my first career out of grad school in international development, so found myself working in a lot of post-crisis, very complex situations. Spent a lot of time in West Africa and Sierra Leone ahead of the Ebola crisis, and during that crisis in Haiti ahead of the major earthquakes, and after. Spent a lot of time in East and West Africa and kind of all over the world, particularly in places where there were large diaspora in the US, kind of building a bridge to help them do good work back home. And in those crisis situations, we were oftentimes working very closely with communities and community leaders to help repair infrastructure, whether that was public health or economic, agriculture, livelihoods. Education was a really core part of the work as well. And helping build up sort of resilient economic systems to help fund and support some of these programs that were oftentimes very heavily reliant on philanthropy and donations. And so I did that work for about 6 years, and it was just stunning. It was really amazing working with, for me, who were just my idols and the people that I admire the most, just these incredible community leaders, entrepreneurs, Ashoka fellows, pastors, you name it, who really kind of stood up and brought their communities forward in times of crisis and afterward, and learning from them. How do you build out local contextual resources and opportunities? And that was my background. It was really in sort of participatory work, working beside and for communities, sort of really in this anti-colonial mindset, which is a big part of the work we focus on now at Health and Harmony. So that's where I came from, worked in public health for a number of years, and then met Health and Harmony about 6 years ago, where I started replicating programs with them in different rainforests. And now we're in the process of scaling this big bet, which has been awesome and a great bright spot and a place of optimism. So we're having a really good time. Like I said, we work in these parts of the world where, as we invest in communities and their solutions to protect and preserve rainforests, we get to see the impact of that. And so, the big bet is, what if we can take and significantly increase investment in rainforest communities, both indigenous peoples, local and traditional communities, and ask them the question, what do you need as a gift from the rest of the world as a thank you for the great work you're doing to protect and preserve these rainforests, to live in balance with the forests, because we all benefit from it. We benefit from the protection and preservation of the forest, the biodiversity, the ecosystems, and of course, the brilliance and intelligence and eons of indigenous and local science that these communities hold. And when we've made these investments for the past 17 years and researched the impact, we've seen the ROI is remarkable in terms of carbon, biodiversity, human health, and the impact is really boundless. I can go on and on, but this is where we do a lot of our research to say, these are the best investments we can be making right now. And in this landscape of transformation, social justice, equity, it's really starting to rebalance how we think about nature, how we think about these remarkable communities that steward nature in such an intelligent way that we can learn so much from. And then just the interconnection of our relationship to nature, biodiversity that thrives under these forest canopies, and the effect that a rainforest has a world away on my life and my backyard and the life of my children. It's all this really stunning web that we get to see flourish the more we take the time to radically listen to communities and invest in their solutions. Yeah, what we're doing is a massive experiment. That's how we refer to it all the time. And that's why we do a lot of research. And part of what we're learning is just, we think a lot about climate science and mainstream research, but Indigenous science and Indigenous research and perspectives are incredibly important and incredibly valuable and have so much to offer in terms of how we change our relationship with nature. So, we look at, this isn't necessarily what we would consider a novel solution, but we think it's an ethical solution. And it's based on reciprocity, thanking these communities for the remarkable work they do to steward these rainforests, investing in their solutions to achieve their own community thriving. And oftentimes communities are designing simple interventions like access to high quality healthcare, systems of alerts and protection for the forest, livelihoods resources, food security resources. And they're always thinking many generations ahead. And so not creating systems of reliance and dependence, but internal capacity to be able to really thrive, flourish, and improve health and well-being. And so We layer on top of that new technologies and leverage things like AI for good to understand how do you analyze carbon dynamics pantropically? How do you knit together all of these different carbon monitoring resources, leveraging deep learning and some of these new ways of thinking about pantropical carbon dynamics? In terms of biodiversity, we use audio moths and non-auditory water scoping of DNA to understand what's the baseline biodiversity in this forest. And now really leaning into indigenous totemic species tracking, which is really the gold standard for measuring biodiversity through a partner called Savimbo. And then I would say that's the second big thing is we have the best partners. We always we always say we play in the sandbox with everybody. We love to partner. I would say it's one of our areas of expertise and finding synergies and ways to work together because to be a catalyzing organization, making a big bet, we can't do it alone. There's really smart people, great technology, awesome efficiencies out there that we are learning from, integrating, and quickly operationalizing. And so we launched a global coalition last year specifically around these unlikely partners, bringing together Pawanka Fund, an indigenous-led fund, Woodwell Climate Research Center, sort of best-in-class climate science, and then other partners like Earth Finance to help us think about alternative financing options, and if not us, then who, to help think about indigenous storytelling so that we can help take all of this boundless impact and turn it into the new narratives and new stories that people can really appreciate to increase these investments in community design solutions. We took an appropriate amount of time to test every aspect of the big bet over a 5-year period, bring in all the right partners to help us understand, not only the best ways to do this and to really understand impact, but at the same time thinking about what are those efficiencies at scale that we can really be thinking about. And because technology and innovation are happening at such a rapid rate, being agile and emergent in our flexibility to integrate these new options has been really key. And I would also say humility and deference have been really important to the work we're doing beside communities who have the best solutions, whose brilliance, experience, and approach is what is really, the future for planetary health. And so, it's deconstructing a lot of what you're taught, and it's really taking an anti-colonial mindset to the work to say, you know what, we're on this runaway train and we need to slow it down and we need to stop it. And we do not have the solutions. The communities that have the best solutions are willing, to talk and share them. And what we can do as a, reciprocal thank you is invest in those solutions and continue to share and show the world how important and key these are. So I would say, emergence, deference, humility have all been really key for us in making this big bet. I think my heroes are unlikely heroes. They're not in books or on TV. They're the everyday people who are out there doing the great work to protect and preserve the rainforest, who take the time to learn, what that plant species is and the integrity of those trees. And if the wind is getting warmer, what does that mean, for the dynamics of the climate? And these are community members who are really living in balance with nature. And our hope is to learn from them. And for me, this has been the most remarkable education. It gives me a lot of hope, to see that people are craving this. People are really interested in this. People are drawn to nature and its beauty and its species. And we have a recognition that it's fragile. It's resilient, but it's fragile. And we can do something about that by supporting these communities, investing in them, and most importantly, just listening to them. And so for me, that's been really transformational.